Hello everyone, I'm Aminata Kanbalde, your host for this edition, and I hope that we are all keeping safe and taking the precautionary measures that will help us and our communities be protected from the COVID-19 pandemic. Dear audience, I'm super excited to welcome you to this edition of the Ignition Hour, where we bring to you great entrepreneurs in an effort of helping you be ignited by their journeys and experiences. Whether you are young entrepreneurs or contemplating embarking on that path. This game changer that is the Ignition Hour is brought to you by Craving for Development, an organization that aims at equipping young African people with the requisite skills of being proactive, independent, and impact oriented. Dear audience, let's project ourselves and imagine an Africa where the driving forces of our youth are curiosity, engagement, and grit. At the Ignition Hour, we are on a mission to make that happen, and we are just getting started. Because our countries need more innovators and stronger entrepreneurs who are ready to do what it takes to challenge the status quo. Another projection that is worth doing is one where Africa is food self-sufficient, implements its agricultural potential, makes the most of its vast market of 54 countries and of its vast and fertile lands, and weaves partnerships that are worthy of our possibilities. The topic of this afternoon's edition is agricultural value chains, a game changer for smallholders. Did you know that agriculture in Africa has a massive social and economic footprint? More than 60% of the population of sub-Saharan Africa is smallholder farmers, and about 23% of sub-Saharan Africa's GDP comes from agriculture. Yet, Africa's full agricultural potential remains untapped. In a recent analysis, it was determined that Africa could produce 2 to 3 times more cereals and grains, which would add 20% more cereals and grains to the current worldwide 2.6 billion tons of output. Similar increases could be seen in the production of horticulture crops and livestock. Significant variation in agricultural development and policy on the continent means differentiated approaches are required for each specific market. While the number of medium-sized farms is rising, increased smallholder productivity will be the highest growth driver. Yet, those smallholders struggle to obtain the agronomic expertise and more sophisticated inputs required for them to achieve their productivity potential. In addition to all this, the African agricultural value chain is deeply fragmented. Africa has an estimated 33 million smallholder farms, and many of those farmers lack access to fair markets, inputs, and modern machinery, as well as agri-related information about prices, financial services, weather forecasts, pest, market demand, etc., which lowers their yield and eats into their profit margin. This is from Winning in African Agriculture, McKinsey.com, February 2019. To discuss all this and much more, we have in our midst great experts and role models, namely Madam Richeta Amwateng, who is the co-founder of Lambano Limited, and Mr. Augustine Sensibangura, who is the CEO of Sierra Agri-Foods. Richeta Amwateng is passionate about food security, alleviating the burdens of women in society, which led her to creating a sister helping other sisters Lambano marketplace with ready to cook and super healthy ingredients. So Bridgetta brings the sub-region into your plates with produce that will make you travel far and wide while enjoying your dish and a cup of great, relaxing tea, which I have the experience of and I can testify for. So, as Augustine, apart from being the CEO and founder of Sierra Agri-Food, he is the head of Citizens Action for Development and Good Governance, and is also the national chairman for the Youth Consortium on Climate Change and Environmental Reform Sierra Leone. So we are in good hands today, and I can promise you that by the end of this edition, we will be enlightened enough and inspired enough, to embark into entrepreneurship in this sector and in ways that will lift up the standards and the sector itself. So welcome to this platform, Augustine and Bridgetta. I know you have a busy schedule, but we wanted to honor your presence, honor us with your presence. Thank you so much. So I'll start with Augustine. Just wanted to know what brought you to agriculture, knowing your background of being, of having studied law and how traditionally we all are, as a nation are yearning for our people, our children to embark into either being a lawyer or a doctor or stuff like that. So what took you from, that very revered path to agriculture or combining the two?
Thank you very much. Where I started initially my career was pursuing what I felt was my call to become a priest.
Mm-hmm.
So thereafter, I had to leave the seminary and I went to pursue my law studies.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was going, there was something holding me back and taking my attention on the other hand. So I discovered that, yes, I have my true call in the agricultural sector. Mine is a call to determine, to see what the missing link between where Sierra Leone is currently and where Sierra Leone should be. So it is out of this call to duty that I had to come to the agricultural sector, devoid of the fact that it is not a silver bullet, but to play my own role so that fellow Sierra Leoneans and young Sierra Leoneans alike will know that it is a golden opportunity for us as a country to harness in terms of eradicating extreme poverty and ensuring that hidden hunger in all its forms is also addressed.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate the fact that you embarked into it even though it wasn't a silver bullet, because we need daring people and very engaged people like you who will do what it takes, to change the narrative. Thank you so much, Augustine. Yes, Bridget, I know you studied finance and you were going on your own path, and then agriculture called to you. How did it happen and why?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, good afternoon, and I'm very happy to be on this platform. I'm honored, actually. Talking about agriculture, what called me? I have been in situations where I find some things very embarrassing. For example, Sierra Leone importing chicken feet, chicken butt. In our society, when you slaughter a chicken, you don't give those parts to people you respect. I don't know if it's different elsewhere. So I consider that these imported chickens have been slaughtered. They give the good parts to the people they respect, and they send the feet to us because we are not respected. So I got angry. Maybe one of the things that actually made me stop and say I need to go into agriculture and put an end to all of this nonsense is because of anger. I got so angry one day. I said, what have we done to deserve this kind of disrespect? Why will they send chicken bones and chicken feet to us? So it wasn't that I didn't know that it was a challenge, but we went together. My co-founder and I went together and we started the research. Actually, we wanted to start with a poultry, and we discovered that there is a challenge in the poultry sector. That's why we could accept chicken feet into Sierra Leone. And the major challenge was feed. And we started thinking and researching, and when we started with making a farm to grow maize, which was one of the most difficult things to get for the feed industry. We started working with smallholder farmers. Actually, I studied finance. When we went into agriculture, it was not fashionable. Normally in Sierra Leone, we think that agriculture is for dropouts, uneducated, people who are not amounting to much. So no wonder the sector is like this, because of the kind of people we allow to go into it, and we see farmers as poor people. So for me, it was like being angry, wanting to help, wanting to put an end. And some of the things I find myself doing are far from the finance that I studied. In fact, I have been working in so-called big organization until 2018. In 2018, I said bye-bye to full-time employment. And people all over thought I was crazy because I had a very good job as perceived by my people, an international or job in an international organization. And it looked so crazy at that time that I had to leave that job to focus on agriculture. And it was a challenge, and it's still a challenge, but I have not regretted one day. Even though the fat big salary I used to have, I don't have anymore, but I see satisfaction when I do Lambano Market Black and I see that people with high-powered, high-paying jobs, they come back and say thank you to me. Thank you, you saved my day. Thank you, you saved my marriage. For me, that satisfaction is higher than the dollars I was earning. So sometimes it is not just money. It is the satisfaction you get that you have helped Sierra Leone from going down the drain, you have helped Africa. That makes all the difference. I think I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Bridgetta. I have great nuggets there in terms of entrepreneurship. Augustine, I'm sure you'll agree with me. It's like the being angry part of it, because most of the time we are very comfortable. We don't want to get out of our comfort zones. But your anger at what was happening and the status quo brought you to where you are now, and I really appreciate that. You also mentioned the fact that people were giving you the feedback of saving their marriages, and that is very, very satisfactory for you when it comes to one of the biggest traits of your personality, which is alleviating the burdens of women in society. Thank you so much for that great work. Even though I know that the entrepreneurship and the journey you're having in agriculture is not that challenging, due to the fact that your co-worker is no other than your own husband. But I just would like to have, a very short, an overview of some of the challenges you're having. That can be very inspiring and very enlightening for our audience.
Okay, thank you. What I know about agriculture from my experience is that it comes with its unique challenges. Sometimes we are far off and we think that it is easy. So you will hear people say, why is pepper 5,000 a corn? Are we not growing pepper in Sierra Leone? It looks so simple. But what goes into growing that pepper and what goes into bringing that pepper from the village to you in the city, you don't take that into account. There are some of the challenges like, agriculture in Sierra Leone is not that developed. So for example, somebody will go and plant something without doing soil test. If you are not careful, it won't yield what you are looking for. So getting your soil being tested is like a whole rigmarole. It's a whole thing in itself. It's a whole business idea that somebody can make money from. And also dealing with smallholder farmers. I had Aminata talking about all of the statistics of smallholder farmers. The mentality of smallholder farmers, the mentality of these people, the ideological thoughts. A lot of people, these smallholder farmers, they are not farming for business. They are doing agriculture as a culture. So to change that mindset, telling the people that this is a business, is another challenge. And another challenge we have is we have a lot of lip services from government. Sometimes I'm not saying it is the whole thing, but in my opinion, I don't see the government, the political willpower committed enough to walk the talk. I don't know if I'm making sense. So we'll come and say 60% of GDP is coming from agriculture. How much percent of our resources as a country have we put into agriculture? It shows on the value chain. It shows on the goods that you get in the market. It shows. It shows that when somebody, a farmer that has spent so much money, paid so much transportation, brings avocado pear to Dovecourt, 75% gets what in. It shows. It shows and makes me get angry that people will have spent so much to grow that pepper, as I said earlier. And when it comes to Freetown, it comes to the market, less than 50% can be used. It shows. So some of these things on my own experience is there are lots of missing chains, missing parts of the value chain. There are so many missing parts. So even getting agricultural input, there are sometimes some of the necessary fertilizer you need for your crops is not available. There are sometimes the agronomic practices of our people is not good. I heard Augustine talking about being a part of a group called Climate Change, Youth for Climate Change. Some of the things that, some of the agricultural practices, if we are not careful, does not leave the environment in a good perspective. And we need to look for climate smart agricultural solution. We don't want to farm and then everything is spoiled to get a cup of rice. No. We are looking at how can I farm and leave something behind, not just make profit. How can I farm and grow healthy crops that can bring health to people? I keep telling people that long gone are the days that people want to eat just to fill their stomach. Now we all want our food to heal and to nourish us. What are we doing? All of these challenges, getting input, getting even finance to finance your agriculture, your agribusiness is a huge challenge. I discovered that agriculture, farming, poor man cannot farm. If you want to farm and you are poor, it is not for you. It takes a lot of investment in machinery. O and cutlass farming cannot feed anybody. Even the family that does O and cutlass farming, it cannot feed for a whole year, much more a whole nation. So if we want to do agriculture, we need, and these are major challenges, we need machinery, we need expertise, we need other technical support, other inputs along the chain. Even logistics, moving from one place to another is a challenge. Thank you.
These are challenges from somebody who's not only processing, but is also a small farmer, right?
Yes.
That's why we saw all the passion and the engagement, which is absolutely great. Augustine, what are the personal challenges you encountered during your journey as an entrepreneur?
Thank you. Bridget has mentioned a whole lot of them. If you look at the value chain, every player across that chain has a challenge. Starting with the producers, who are the smallholder farmers. My company is operating in the value addition chain. We are into agro processing. Now, if a farmer cannot produce onto the quantity required for us to have year-round production, our business, the sustainability aspect of it will be challenging, because at the end of the day, we need enough raw materials. We are processing a crop that is perishable in the first place, the orange flesh sweet potato. We transform it into baby food. We use it to produce potato bread and biscuits. So one of the challenges we faced, especially in 2020, was the unavailability of sufficient raw materials. And when you ask them what the problem is, one, you find out from their response that the mindset has a problem. We, their mindsets is very difficult to change. They see it rather as a way of life, like Bridget mentioned, other than as a business entity or as a wealth creating sector. So the approach we used was to ensure, one, yes, we have smallholder farmers. They constitute the majority in the agricultural sector, in the informal sector, and according to reports, they contribute largely towards our local GDP. Yeah. So what we did was to develop a scheme which we call an agricultural farmer outgrower scheme. Yeah, this was a scheme we developed as a company, and we called it a scheme of shared prosperity, where we ensure as a company that now, like Bridget mentioned, one of the challenges in terms of them having the requisite agronomic technical knowledge and experience in carrying out their various production, we developed a system wherein we go into agreement with them. We establish a scheme. We have the scheme registered as a cooperative with the relevant authorities, predominantly the Ministry of Agriculture. And then we train them. We provide agronomic trainings for them. We call agricultural experts. But again, in doing that, most often the extension offices in the zonal areas of production in the provinces, we have problem as a result of understaffing. Having these people to respond robustly and urgently during these moments when you need them. For example, now when we bought our soybeans last year for production, we had to import all the way from the United States. We went in search in the whole of Sierra Leone. We could not have soybeans locally. We went to neighboring Guinea. We could not have. So we have to go for a hybrid, a more recent type from the United States of America. And now what we want to do is to ensure we train these smallholder farmers on the agronomic technicalities to grow soybeans. We have the fertile soil. What is the magic? Why is it that Uganda is growing soybeans and Sierra Leone cannot produce soybeans? And we know soybeans is one of the commodities that makes a largest share in the agro commodity markets internationally. So we've engaged with the Ministry of Agriculture. Until date, we've not gotten the extension officers to start the training, and farming season is right at the corner. So these are one of the challenges. But we are making tremendous progress, especially with regards the orange flesh sweet potato. So we provide them this technical training to be able to boost their yield, because they play a very crucial role, the outgrowers, the smallholders. They play a very crucial role, because imagine if the produce is not of high quality, it affects all other players in the sector. So we have to catch them. And then for us as agro-processors, we are very vital. We play a very vital role to connect all of the other players. At the end of the day, to have something that will meet the satisfaction of the end users. So another challenge has to also do with largely the political will. Say what you may, for the private sector to thrive, there should be the political will. And this involves agriculture also. When I look at some of the policies that we have as a country, I ask myself the question, why is it that we are still where we are and are not able to outcompete Cote d'Ivoire, for example? Cote d'Ivoire's GDP is by a larger extent very great in West Africa countries, by 7.5%. So why is Sierra Leone? Very, very, very good policies. You see them, if they are implemented, they are put into practice, you'll know that yes, Sierra Leone is actually not supposed to be where it should be in terms of looking about the progressive retrogression of the agricultural sector. So the political will should be there for agricultural players to thrive. And to me, I see that what we have to do now as a country is to privatize agricultural interventions. we have to privatize them. Yeah, government can be the provider, providing all of the adequate support, allocating budgetary expenses, to boost the sector. But in terms of implementation, if we privatize it, I see that it will make a lot of impact. Yeah. So another challenge I discovered has to do with market availability and the perception, increasing the acceptance and the acceptability. Like for me, I'm much more lucky because people consume bread on daily basis. So if our sales go on to 3.5 million, 4 million a day just on the sale of bread, it is because it constitutes the second staple for Sierra Leoneans. After rice, you think about bread. So I'm very fortunate. But if you ask Bridget, for example, Freetown has a very large market, a very, very large market. How many people come to patronize our product? How many people go in for organic? They prefer going to the supermarket, buying this product that has additives to it, preservatives to it. But she is producing organic, freshly produced and grown here in Sierra Leone. But people do not go out for it. So having to raise awareness in the markets for market acceptability is in itself another huge challenge. And it all borders around changing the mindset and strengthening our information flow, to ensure people know why the need.
Thank you so much, Augustine and Bridget, for this overview of the challenges. Obviously, the challenges are very many, and sometimes a little bit even like scary when it comes to solutions that are supposed to be given to it. But the tendency I've seen from the two interventions is that mostly it's lack of political will, because even the mindset you talked about when it comes to those smallholders and what they produce has to also do with that mindset that we had before of just doing agriculture for your own subsistence, not for wealth creation, not also thinking of the value chain and the end user. And that's where I think it's really important to praise both of you for the great job you're doing, but also to empathize with you, because the reality is we end users always see you the people who doing value addition, just like, oh, this is too expensive, but also it's too, like, it doesn't have the quality that we're looking for, not knowing that you are also challenged by the produce you receive from those smallholders, and that's why it's called a chain. So we empathize with you guys. We know it's very difficult. We also praise the efforts you're doing when it comes to adding value and all. So we just have had an overview of the status of agriculture while talking about the challenges. We know it's a very it's a sector that is full of potential when exploited, and that's where the invitation of the private sector comes in with the privatization and all, because in many other sectors that's what saved the day. Just wanted to know that when we think of agriculture and we focus on those vast lands and rainy seasons and all, we just focus on those two assets as a country, and mostly even as a continent. Where is that leading us? The fact of not, as you mentioned, the fact of not studying the soil, its the fertile aspect of it, and also the fact of diversifying as the ways of doing agriculture, not only depending on the rain and stuff. What did it do to our agriculture, and how can we give solutions to that? What are the other processes we can have?
Okay, thank you. With agriculture in Sierra Leone, first of all, we are so blessed. Do you know we have 2 farming seasons in Sierra Leone? Does anybody know that? There are 2 farming seasons in Sierra Leone. There is the main one and the minor one, the major one and the minor one. The major one is already started now. You can see rain, and our lands are always perceived as fertile. But there is another challenge that we have in our land because, okay, let's say Freetown, it's mainly sloping. So that means there is a lot of erosion taking place. There is a lot of nutrients leaving the soil anytime it rains. So apart from just the land, in these modern days, if you any country that depends on rainfall agriculture, rain-fed agriculture, will remain with food insufficiency. You cannot depend on that anymore. There are other modern methods of agriculture. And apart from the soil, the space, land space, apart from the rainfall, there are other challenges, especially with the land in Sierra Leone. And again, we lack adequate machineries. So if you want to do hoe and cutlass farming, it will not even be enough to feed you. So you need equipment, machinery, correct proper machinery, machinery to plow the land, machinery to, in these days and age, the way we plant, there are machines that are called planters, machines that can plant, machines that can help you harvest, machines that can help you process. Why? So that you can be able to do vast area and faster. And Augustine was talking about soya beans. We do animal feed, and one of the highest components, for animal, let me talk about chicken. For you to get or rear a chicken so that you can be able to realize something from that chick, you have to feed the chicken the way you feed a child, a balanced diet, protein, calcium, and other things. But one of the crop with the highest amount of protein is soya beans. And because of the challenge of getting soya beans in Sierra Leone, last year we had to import seeds and do trials. Because for us, we originally didn't want to farm. But because of the challenges that Augustine spoke about, it will be difficult for you to get the level of quality you are looking out for, or even the quantity. So we don't just support smallholder farmers to farm what we want, but we also have what we call our own nucleus farm. So if all the smallholder farmers fail us, we have our own farm to fall back on. It might not be enough for what we want, but we still have it. And now, farming has passed the level of just waiting for 6 months or 8 months of rain. We now do irrigation. There is now agroponics. There is now greenhouse. So some of these things are coming up. And there is also urban agriculture. In my house, I have some of the seeds I do trials in my house. I plant them in pots, I plant them in rubbers, I plant them in bags, so that I could know the viability of these seeds. So you can do agriculture in any kind of setting if you put your mind to it. You don't just depend on the rain and the soil. Sometimes even our soil, you need to augment it with something like limestone because of the acidity content. So there are so many things, and if you look at all of these problems, there are opportunities for entrepreneurship. For entrepreneurs, there is so much opportunity. So as an entrepreneur, we are not afraid of the challenges. We see it as an opportunity that we can make money, we can bring solution. And one of the solutions we are piloting is soil enhancer, natural organic soil enhancers. We are doing organic manure because we are looking at all of these challenges. How can we solve it? It is past time for us to be waiting for people to come from elsewhere to solve our challenge. Everybody have their own challenge. Let us solve our own challenge as well. And you solve the challenge at a profit, because me, I'm an entrepreneur. Thank you.
Yes, she's an entrepreneur because at the end of the day, you don't solve the problem just for the sake of solving it, but you solve it to enrich the ecosystem, but at the same time enrich your own bank accounts, as an entrepreneur. And that's very, very great. It's very great to hear you talking about the way you Lambano, process towards integrating certain practices into your own system. It's like it's based on science because it has testing. It has also that passion about organic uh, production and all that. So that's really very, very great because at the end of the day, agriculture was aiming at, feeding the population, but at the same time curing them, because the advice we got from uh, the great doctor was let thy food be thy medicine, and we have gone so far from that advice that now even having people who are doing organic food is being frowned upon because of the pricing that goes with it, but also because of all those issues when it comes to the quality, to the quantity, and all other challenges that you stated. So, Augustine, I would like you to come back more on alternative ways of doing agriculture rather than just using soil and waiting for the rain. And if we could, break it down to the for the young entrepreneurs or aspiring ones to relate to it even more.
Yeah, when concerns like this come up, I do look at Egypt
Mm.
as that African country we can model
Mhm.
in terms of shifting from just dependence on rain to basin irrigation.
Mhm.
I was speaking to one Egyptian lady and she told me that if it rains twice a year in Egypt, it's a whole lot of celebration for them. The children will not go to school if it happens to be a school day. They will sit at home, they will catch the fun around that. Imagine this is a country that receives at times twice, just a year of rain, and we have all of the time. But yet, when you look at countries, African countries that are thriving in agriculture, Egypt falls in the first three African countries. So you start thinking, how is it made possible? It is through irrigation, basin irrigation specifically. So now we have a whole lot of wealth in itself by having 6 months, at times more, of rains
Yeah. Mhm.
a year. So what we need, this is why I said we actually have to privatize the agricultural intervention from the side of central government. We have to develop a system where we can bank water, and then be doing year-round production. Because we can only thrive, we can only succeed if we do year-round production. For example, I was approached by a company in Canada. They need a supply of orange fresh sweet potato. When they send me what their annual quote is, I sat for a week without responding to the mail. And then I asked myself, it is about also my reputation.
Yeah.
Will I be able to meet to this? I had to engage with other agripreneurs, and I had to engage other farmers. We met, and from all indication, it will cost us a lot more doing year-round production. Here comes the technological aspect, machinery. Imagine if you had to buy a single irrigation machine from China. You buy it at $350. What you will spend for taking that machine from China to Sierra Leone, clearing it from the port, you will spend about twice the original amount you spend on buying that machinery. So at the end of the day, how much will you sell? Will you export this product to Canada for? What will be your profit margin? So you read between these lines, and then you began to think that yes, here comes again the political will. We have to do something. Yes, we have the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is making so much progress, and which will have to lessen the barriers of trade in the continent. But what of beyond the continent? How many countries do we have that are doing that are in Africa and are doing extremely well in terms of technological manufacturing? We'll have to go to Ghana, we'll have to go to the other countries in the West. So we have to ensure we strengthen it. And for me, we have to also shift in the area of greenhousing, in the area of hydroponics, and see how best we can. All of these anchored around the cost, access to finance. And the huge challenge has been agriculture has been declared literally as a risk sector. But we have to change this mindset if we are really serious about it. We have to de-risk the agricultural sector for several reasons. Because at the end of the day, nobody eats gold, nobody drinks iron ore, but everybody eats food. And it is the same sector that creates the largest number of jobs for our growing youth population. And some of us are here today as model. But even at that, we would have experienced more progress had the political will been present than we are today. So even in modeling other young people, giving them all of the reason to come in, we have to ensure that we have the enabling environment, we have the infrastructural provisions for us to thrive as a country. And so for us, we are taking the bold step. We are taking the bold step to get a paradigm shift from dependence on rain to year-round production in terms of encouraging irrigation. And that is why here comes another challenge in terms of the access to land. The access, the tenure system is not working well. But for me, I do see, like Bridget say, we do see opportunity in every challenge.
Yeah.
So in terms of access to land, we know these smallholders are the largest shareholders of these production zonal areas. So the best you can do as a value addition player is to ensure you work with them as partners. They have the land, let them grow. You buy from them, you add value. You process and add value and send to the market. So if we do things like this, I'm sure in terms of, this is why for us, we are not challenged in terms of accessing land. We are not challenged at all as a company. Yeah, because we take them as partners. They are equal players in our operation chain.
I start understanding better why Bridget was saying that farming is not for the poor man. You know, when you're talking about all these machineries, how expensive it is, how hard it is to bring it in, and also what will you even gain from it, and the end price to the person, like it won't be competitive compared to the sub-region and all. So I was really thinking of partnerships that you mentioned, you know, among farmers here and among players in the value chain, you know, to come together and, you know, purchase those and utilize it not only for one company but many. You know, there are many ways, I'm sure, to come together as farmers, as players in the value chain and bring those things to Sierra Leone. Just before we move any further, I wanted you to just maybe break down a little bit the hydroponic techniques and the greenhousing that you talked about. What does it consist of?
Yeah, these are, you don't basically have to use the direct soil. Yeah, for example, the hydroponic. You bank on water. This is why I was talking about water. How many reservoirs do we have in the zonal areas of production? Water reservoirs.
Yeah.
Not up to 10% of what is required for year-round production. So we have to ensure we develop a system where we can bank water to be able to thrive in terms of shifting from soil agriculture, direct soil agriculture, to hydroponics, where water plays a very critical role. So you will have like your hydroponic production area set up, built, and with water supplying it, and being regulated at some point by solar energy, to regulate the temperature, the required temperature it gets. So in the area of the greenhousing, you use oil. You use soil, but you don't use it directly. You can be in Freetown, for example, and do greenhousing. We've seen in this country people coming to take our soil, exporting it to other countries. And you ask yourself, what are they going to do with this soil? So they come, they anchor, they take what our wealth is, they go with them, and then they use it to really make it a wealth for themselves. But we pass them that by. In fact, we abuse some of these natural resources we have as a country. Look at today what is happening. The frequent logging, the radical logging of our forests, this timber logging. We've raised concerns as farmers, as agripreneurs. We've advocated, we've engaged some authorities in the government that let us see how we can tackle this, because it is doing us no good. and it is doing the children, our children, our next generation, no good. Because if we continue to log, at the end of the day, we are not making agriculture friendly. We are not. So basically, the is it's about hydroponics and the area of greenhousing.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Just wanted to know, apart from the rain and those vast and fertile lands that we have in Sierra Leone, what else can we bank on when it comes to agriculture in Sierra Leone?
What else can we bank on? We can bank on our people. For me, the most valuable resource of any nation are people. And we know the statistics of youth that we have. I noticed that there are lots of people, young men, in their prime production time period. You see them sitting at different places when you pass. Mommy, good afternoon. You bobo there. You see them also spend time arguing about football, Drogba and Messi and who else, Arsenal. So we have all of this as a nation. We can capitalize on the youthfulness of our population. That is some of the treasures we have, the gifts we have as a nation that we can make use of. Because these young people are supposed to be innovating, bringing out ideas, doing great things. In other countries, it is the young people that are taking the economy, they are doing great things. You don't wait, it's not happening like when people get to 50, that's when they begin with good ideas. No, it's the young people that questions the status quo. But if, as a nation, we don't do that, we are losing most of our resources. Another thing, again, we need to bank on is all the kinds of expertise, to put our expertise to work. We have so many people that in this nation, they are soil experts, post-harvest experts. Some people have PhDs in all of this. But some of them, these agricultural graduates, you find them working in the bank. Some of the agricultural graduates, you find them working in other offices. They are not being productive. They have the skills, they have the training, but they are not working there because they think it will not give them money. The next thing is that we have this Ministry of Agriculture that is supposed to be the last referral point. That sometimes I don't think they are being useful for us. Some of them are now becoming paper farmers. That's, for me, is a big issue. Agriculture is practical. And again, apart from all of these resources that we have, for agriculture to thrive in Sierra Leone, we need, one, the political will, the desire to make the change, the desire not to depend on importation of food. Even as the head of a family, we have some men around here, right? If you cannot feed your family, you are not respected. Even your kids cannot respect you. What about a nation that cannot feed its people? It's a shame to all of us that we cannot feed ourselves as old as we are. We need to be begging for food, depending on people to send us chicken feeds and chicken bones. Expired rice. No wonder some people say they can send us plastic. The countries that send us this rice, do you know that they don't have good soil and rainfall and water like us? But they can afford to send some to us at a price that they think is fit for us? Is that not a shame? Sorry, I have to provoke each and every one of us. Provoke you onto anger, to take action. Because we need to be angry enough to get up from our comfort zone and do something. So stop thinking that people come and do it for us. It has passed that level. Haven't you seen what happened with COVID? Everybody is busy fighting for themselves. Don't fight for yourself and you will know.
That's the angry Bridgetta, and by the end of this edition, I hope we all are gonna be at that same level of anger. Because as she said, most of the revolutions we have witnessed in the world were triggered by that anger or discomfort about what you are going through, the status quo, the situation of your country. She talked about those countries where we have those plastic rice form. But you look at Japan. Look at Japan and the islands and how they rose from all that and became now that great nation economically and even in terms of their human resources. So yes, Africa, at a certain point, there are many policies that are, being utilized against us because seemingly we are many, and we still are very fertile and all that. But then all that human resource, is it a valuable one? Is it a dignified one that is capable of being angry enough and saying no to how we living our lives and how we are supposed to contribute to our development? Yeah, I really heard you and I related to you. Thank you so much. Augustine, what would you say?
Um, One, we have to, in my perspective, there are two major things we have to back on. One has to do with our policies.
Mm.
We have
Oh.
really amazing policies.
Yeah.
So we have to bank on them in terms of making them more practical, other than just theories.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
if we bank on them, at the end of the day, it will be in our best interest.
Mm.
For me, I see two major opportunities in animal husbandry.
Mm.
One has to do with poultry,
Mhm.
and another has to do with pig farming.
Mm.
Yeah. Imagine with the number of poultries we have, yet we cannot produce unto 60% of the required eggs we consume nationally for a country of 7 million, 7.5 million population. We cannot produce up to 60%. So there is a need, not just focusing on crops, but also look at animal husbandry. Huge potential is there. How many poultries do we have in Sierra Leone that are focused on chicken broiler production? I don't know of any. All I know about the poultries we have locally, they are existing, they are functioning only for the production of eggs. Yet we continue to spend millions of dollars annually on the importation of chicken. So why can't we have other young people saying, this is an area of opportunity for me? I will not focus on the area of egg production. We have other players. But let me come in to see how I can focus on the area of chicken broiler production. Produce chicken. Even the wings of the chicken we have to take from other countries. Even the bones, like Bridget was saying, we have to go. Even is it the kidney? I don't know, or the gizzard. I hear they call it gizzard. We have to go to another country to export. So what the challenge there is? And pig farming has a huge prospect. Yes, we have majority of our population being Muslims. Yeah, which is fine. And for some, it's maybe against their religious culture. But yet we have other youth in other denominations. Why can't we look into this as an opportunity? The Minister of Trade and I were having a conversation the other day, and he told me about a quotation that was sent to them for pigs needed in China urgently. And the country cannot produce up to 30%. When he had to check with all the extension offices and check with pig farmers across, we cannot produce up to 30% of what was required. And then so this is why my company is also going into it for alternative purposes, because the waste we have from the orange fresh sweet potato is just going to waste. So now we want to see how best we can utilize. Imagine some of these waste constitutes almost 70% of the feed required for pigs. So this is why we acquired a 5-acre piece of land where a factory will be positioned, and along that we'll have the ancillary unit of the pig farming to ensure we protect the environment. Those waste we have, we reproduce them into feed for the pigs at the end of the day. So we also need to encourage diversity as we talk about the way forward in terms of not only banking on the soil and the rainfall.
Yeah. What was what was the most beautiful part is where you ended about the waste. Normally in ecological agriculture, nothing is lost. Nothing is thrown away. It has to come back to the other parts of the farming that farm is doing, including if there is aquaculture in there, maybe those waste will go to feeding them or feeding the pigs, as you say, and their own waste, their own organic waste
Yeah.
goes to
Production.
fertilizing, the land and all, and that's what we are supposed to be aiming at. And it's really very. I think it's very economical when it comes to not having to buy
Sure.
inputs and all. And another thing that is very interesting is the fact that we still having those quotations from China, from Canada and all, but we still cannot
Meet the demand.
meet the demand, And the reality is when you talk to any producer here, they will tell you that our market is very small. But the thing is, yes, sometimes we cannot compete with the sub-region, but you see, we can then offer to the international market, and that's something that we really do.